This is section 10.8, spheres. Objectives: learn and apply the formula for the volume of a sphere. Second one is learn and apply the formula for the surface area of a sphere. Vocabulary, several terms you can pause to read. I am moving on to the next slide. Some of the vocabulary. This is the definition of a sphere. A sphere is the locus of points in space that are a fixed distance from a given point called the center of the sphere, and as you can see, this will be the center of the sphere. A radius of a sphere connects the center of the sphere to any point on the sphere. Then a hemisphere is half of a sphere, so this green shape that you see here is what we call hemisphere. And the great circle is a great circle divides the sphere into two hemispheres. So this is the great circle of this sphere. Let's move on to the next slide. This is the formula that you're going to be using to compute the volume of a sphere with radius r. Is just 4/3 times pi, and then the radius is raised to the third power. So all you need is the radius to compute the volume of a sphere. Let's apply that formula. Just find the volume of the sphere with find the volume of the sphere, give your answer in terms of pi. Notice that here they give you diameter, so the radius is 12. Then this is the formula you can apply. Substitute 12 for the r, simplify this, you end up with 1728. You simplify this, you can divide 3 into this number, and you end up with this, and this is your answer in terms of pi. Let's go to the next one, number 2. Here now you have a volume. If you need to find the volume of this hemisphere, which is half of sphere, I'm going to show you how to do this two ways. First way is to basically modify the formula. Instead of multiplying by 2/3, instead of multiplying by 4/3 pi r cubed, you multiply by 2/3, because that's 2/3 is half of 4/3. And then you substitute, simplify, divide 3 into that number, and this is your answer. And this is the answer in terms of pi. The other way is to basically use the regular formula, simplify, and then once you have this answer, this is the volume of the entire sphere. So to find the hemisphere, you divide it by 2, and you're going to get this answer. Let's go to the next slide. This is the formula you're going to be using to compute the surface area of a sphere. Now the surface area is very different from the volume, and you should understand the difference. I can clarify this in class if you like, but it's basically the paint. How much paint would it take to cover this sphere? It is 4 pi times the radius raised to the second power. So let's apply this formula on the next slide. It says find the surface area of a sphere with diameter 76 centimeters. Give your answers in terms of pi. Sometimes they don't give you a picture, but we should be able to handle this. First, recognize that the radius is 38. So then I'm going to apply that formula, 4 pi r squared. Substitute the radius, simplify. This is my answer. For number 4, here you need to compute the volume of the sphere with this surface area, and leave your answers in terms of pi. So to compute the volume, I need to know the radius. I don't have the radius, but they give me this piece of information. So I'm going to set up an equation to find r. This is the equation for the surface area. S is equal to 324 pi. Substitute, divide both sides by 4 pi. And once I do that, I get 81 equals r squared. And very easily, you should recognize that r is equal to 9. Now that I know r, I can find the volume of this sphere. Apply the 4/3 pi r cubed. Substitute 9 for r. Simplify, and this is your answer. 972 pi cubic inches. Let's go to the next slide. It says find the surface area of a sphere with a great circle that has an area of 49 pi square miles. So they don't give you a picture. This is what you should be thinking of. The great circle is basically this area. The area of this great circle is 49 pi. So now from here I should be able to find the radius, because the area of this circle is pi r squared. The formula to find the area of the circle is pi r squared. Substitute 49 pi, solve for r, and you end up with r equals 7. Divide both sides by pi, and you should be able to follow. Now that you know r, you're able to find the surface area of the sphere using the formula S equals 4 pi r squared. Substitute r, and this is your answer. 196 pi square miles. Let's move to the next slide. This is exploring the effects on changing dimensions. Since the radius of the sphere is multiplied by 2/3, describe the effect on the volume. So this is volume, so you know you're going to be working with this, and since this is volume, raise this to the 3rd power, and this is the answer to number 6. The volume is multiplied by this or by 27 over 64. Let's move on to 7. This is to a degree similar to number 6, but now here you need to describe the effect on the surface area. Remember, this is area, so you're going to take this number and then you're going to square it, since we're dealing with area. So the answer to number 7 is the surface area is divided by 3 squared or by 9, because you're dividing everything by, you're dividing the radius of the sphere by 3. So you divide by 9. Let's go to the next slide. It says find the surface area and volume of the composite figure. So there's 2 parts. First, let's compute the surface area. Notice that the radius is equal to 6, since they give you the diameter of 12. So surface area is going to, we're going to break it up into parts. First, I'm going to find the surface area of the hemisphere. An entire sphere is 4 pi r squared. I only have half of it, so I multiply by 0.5 or a half, and that's how I end up with 2 pi r squared. Then I substitute the radius, square it, and get 36. Multiply that by 2 pi, and I end up with 72 pi square inches for the top portion of this composite figure. Then I'm going to find the lateral of the cylinder, which is 2 pi r h. Substitute the r and the height of 9. I get 108 pi. And then I'm going to find the area of this base, which is the base of the cylinder, which is a circle, pi r squared, and I end up with 36 pi. So to find the surface area, all I need to do is I need to take these 3 numbers, add them, and I leave the answers in terms of pi. 216 pi square inches. We're done with surface area. Now let's compute the volume. So break it up into parts to compute the volume of this composite. I'm going to find the volume of the hemisphere. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the formula and I'm multiplying by half, and that's how I end up with 2/3 pi and the radius cubed, and I already substitute the radius here. I end up with 144 pi cubic inches. Then I need to find the volume of the cylinder, excuse me, which is pi r squared times the height. Substitute the r, the height, and then I end up with 324 pi cubic inches. To find the total volume, I need to add these 2 numbers, and that's the answer. And this basically concludes video 10.8.